Hello, everyone, and welcome to our webinar, Intro to Zapier MCP, Best Use Cases. My name is Matt Brown, and I will be your host for today. First up, I'd love to hear where everyone is tuning in from. So go ahead and tell us where you're currently based in the chat. I can start. I'm based in Chicago, where the weather is finally starting to turn to spring, thank God. So a little warmer today. And while that runs, while you tell us in the chat, there's a couple things I want to go through in terms of housekeeping on the next slide. So Reid, if you could click to that next slide. Let's see, there we go. Yes. So first thing is, this webinar is being recorded. We will email you with the recording after the webinar. We'll have some time for live Q&A at the end of the session. So throughout the webinar, go ahead and enter any questions that you have in the Q&A tab that's at the bottom of your screen. You can also upvote any questions from other attendees, which is really going to help us prioritize. We have a very full house today, so we expect a fair amount of questions. So feel free to help us prioritize those questions. Also, be sure to drop those questions in the Q&A tab, not in the chat tab. In the chat, it can get lost very quickly, but the Q&A we can keep track of. Also, if you run into any technical issues, just refresh your web page. That usually solves pretty much all the problems that we see. We also recommend that you use Google Chrome as your browser. And then on the next slide, you will see that if you like today's session, next week we've got a part 2. We've noticed more than 1.3 million innovators have already put AI to work in Zapier. And so today we're doubling down. Now you can add AI agents directly into your workflows, no code necessary. So please join us on May 13th to learn how. You're going to see the pop-up on your screen. There it is. To register, save your spot. We hope we will see you there next week. Yes, and then on to the stars of our show. I'm excited to announce today's speakers. We've got Reid Robinson, Zapier's lead product manager for AI, who will be our primary presenter. We also have Tal Perez, a staff AI engineer at Zapier, will be available silently to help with your questions throughout the presentation. Also will be able to join us during the live Q&A at the end after the demos. And not shown here, but present is also Nate Moore, senior full stack engineer at Zapier, who is also going to be helping us out with Q&A. Reid and Tal and Nate all played key roles in developing and launching Zapier MCP, so you're in excellent hands. You can take it away, Reid.
All right. Hey, everybody. Thanks for kicking us off here, Matt. You've got Reid from Zapier. I always like to say, because people are starting to actually hear the word Zapier on this call, and we always get the first question, which is, how do you pronounce it? Is it Zapier, Zapier? So I'll help you all. It is Zapier. The little mnemonic to remember is Zapier makes you happier. And I always like to tell this little story is that the reason it is spelled the way it is, and not with 2 P's, as would go with the pronunciation, is that this way Zapier has API directly in the name. This is what happens when you are a company co-founded by 3 engineers. You end up with 1 P. All right. But for today's topic, now that we know how to pronounce Zapier, we know how to say Zapier MCP, which is the star of the show today, and how we can use it with Claude in particular. And for those who didn't see, last week we were fortunate to work with Anthropic to release Zapier MCP 2.0 as one of the launch partners to be integrated with Claude. And I'm very excited about this. We've been working on giving AI models access to tools to help them kind of break out and get more context from your systems and be able to take action. And that's exactly what Zapier MCP makes it really easy to do. And, for that, there's a couple of things that you can start to be able to do with Zapier MCP. Again, these models that you're working with in Claude or in other tools today, like Cursor and Windsurf and many others that are starting to support bringing MCPs in, allow you to go beyond just asking it a question and getting a response. You can now allow it to, have access to your searches in Zapier. And we've got 30,000 different searches and actions. So I'll be showing a demo walking through some of the ways I like to search. across my information. You can also start to, really actually take action and creating things like sending details to Slack, creating documents in Google Docs, all of that stuff without leaving, which I love. And this is entirely built on Zapier. We've been building integrations for a long time now. And so you get a lot of trust and reliability on giving access to tools in just the way you want to and containing them. So for instance, Slack, sending channel messages. One of the things I like to do is, I like to give it a little bit of guardrails or bumpers, if you will, to say, hey, I want you to only be able to send to a few Slack channels, not everything under the sun for it. And I just love the way that it's really easy to do that. And probably the other thing I really like is this is our, again, we've been working on giving models tools for a while now. We were one of the first launch partners with OpenAI when they released plugins. And then about a year and a half later, when they released custom GPTs, we were, the key demo that they showed this off to the world. And fast forward to today, we're making that like just even easier and more powerful. And what excites me is more and more tools are supporting that. So you can use this in more places. But how this works is quite straightforward. Number one, you're going to generate your MCP server endpoint. And I'll walk through exactly a concise demo on how to do this so you understand, but it's really mcp.zapier.com. Pretty easy to remember. You'll see that the first thing you do is you create a server, and a server is your place to like house your tools that you're giving to a particular model or a particular app. So in this case, like Claude, cursors, so on and so forth. Then you're going to give it your searches and actions. So those are the tools. And then you just give it to one of your AI tools that you're working with. And that's as simple as it is to be able to do. And again, Zapier's got 8,000 apps today. That's 30,000 searches and actions. So it can do a lot. And what's awesome for a bit more of the technical folks here, this does support private apps built into Zapier. It also supports custom actions. And so what that means is if you use your own solution internally, or if the app that you want to work with isn't on Zapier or doesn't have the action you want, you can actually work with some of our tools to create those actions. With custom actions, we even work with an AI system on our side to help you create that. So you don't need to be a developer to do that. And it's quite powerful. And then if you have anything like that, it's usable in Zapier MCP everywhere you can put it. Excited to show you a demo now of Zapier MCP. And I'm going to start with one of my favorite use cases and walk you through just how to get started and see just how easy it is. So the first thing you do is you're going to go to mcp.zapier.com. Pretty straightforward there so far. And the first thing you're going to do is you're going to create your own MCP server. So the way that this works is you can create multiple MCP servers in Zapier's MCP, and each of these allows you to link it to a specific client. This is the end application that you're going to be using all of your Zapier searches and actions in. And we give you some ones and some instructions on how to use the common ones today, or you can choose other to get a whole bunch of other options. But let's say you're doing the Claude MCP, right? That's what we're here for. So in this case, you now just add your tools, and adding tools is extremely easy. You can see I have 4 different tools already supported in my Claude MCP. And let's say now I want to give the ability to do some enrichment. And in this case, I might look up our friends at ZoomInfo, right? And maybe I want to allow it to enrich a contact or search for additional contacts, all of those things. And so for here, all you need to do is click that action. If you have an authentication, it's going to use it. If you need to add an authentication for that app, you're going to be able to do it. And you can set specific permissions on each of these actions. So if you look at this find contact one for HubSpot, you'll see that the way I've done this is I want it to only be guessing email addresses, right? I want it to always be searching via email. And the reason is I found one of the Claude use cases with Zapier MCP that's really valuable is actually helping me prepare for my day and research who I'm meeting with. So you can see here a fake calendar for the day of who I'm meeting with. I have this, I'm pretending to be the Zappler marketing agency. And you can see I have an upcoming meeting with some folks from Zapier to discuss our marketing strategy. Well, when I go to Claude, the way that we're going to connect this first is you've got everything you want ready to go. You go to the Connect tab, and there's going to be some really straightforward instructions on how to add this into Claude. And it's as simple as copying the URL that's here. And when you go to Claude, you're going to see that on the Integrations tab for Add More, you do this, you could paste the URL, give it a name, and then save it. I'll make a note, currently with Claude, this is available for Team, Enterprise, and Max plans. So if you're on a Pro or Free account, I think they're still waiting to roll out access there. And you do want to be setting this up in Claude.ai in a browser session. It'll then work in desktop, but you want to first set it up in the browser. So once you've done that, you're going to go ahead and go to a new chat, and you'll see that in the Search and Tools option, there's now something for Zapier. The first time you do this, you'll have to connect with OAuth to create a connection between Zapier, MCP, and Claude. And once you do that, though, you'll see all of the action you've enabled in your Claude, from Zapier. And so for here, you can see all the different things that I've got. But let's start getting it to do things for us, right? Let's ask it, who am I meeting with from Zapier? And it has a number of actions, including searching my calendar. So that should be, there we go. That's the one it's going to be using here. And you can see kind of like what it's going to be guessing there and how it's going to do that. And it should come back here with who I'm meeting with, and it picked up correctly. I'm meeting with Matt and Wade to do that. But now let's ask them to, I don't know, like help me look up information about Matt and Wade to help me prepare. There we go. And now it has a whole bunch of actions that it could choose, including built-in ones like searching the web, as it's going to start with. Let's see what it decides to do next. There we go. So we've searched the web for Wade and Matt, but now we're starting to do Zapier MCP actions, including enriching the contact from ZoomInfo. So now we're going to get much more detail on Wade in particular here. So let's see what the ZoomInfo MCP action comes back to. You can see it included, looks like it included a whole bunch of information on Wade, which is great. And it's going to do the same thing here for Matt. And what I love about this, I personally, again, I've found this type of workflow to really help me prepare for my day. Because I can just get it to give me such detailed information, look up more details about the company, be like, hey, I plan on talking about this. Is there anything recent about this that the company's posted about? And you can see it gives me like a great thing. I could even share this now. I could say like, share this with my sales team. And let's go see how this works here. All right. Oh, I probably should have told it to share it somewhere. I'm going to first double check here. And this is a good way to double check how things are working here. We're doing this together. I do have the ability to send a Slack channel message. And so it's creating a whole document on this, which is kind of awesome. And let's go see if, can you send it to my sales team in Slack? Let's see here. There you go. And it's going to write out, this might take a little while. Probably should have gone with a shorter request, because this could take a little while, because it's going to write out some details here. But there you go. So you can see here that it's going to send a Slack channel message. And one of the cool things with Zapier MCP is that, as you can see here, Claude just guessed like sales team. But if you actually look, oh, it already finished, which is cool. Team sales is the actual channel. So it figures out what you intend to mean by that, which I really appreciate. It makes, having to do things here a lot easier for do that. And there you go. So it included some details for that. Probably could have done a little bit of a better job, but I probably could have been more clear on like how much detail to actually send it. But that's a little bit about how that workflow has been working really well for me. I find in particular just getting it to research people. Again, I can give this thing the ability to search for HubSpots. I could have even checked recent conversations with that individual from our CRM. And I love this. I've found it again to be incredibly valuable. But let's switch gears to talk a little bit about a developer workflow. And you'll see Zapier MCP not only supports looking at things like Claude, but also other popular MCP clients like Cursor. And in this example, let's say I'm a developer here working away on something, and I've given Cursor the ability to basically help me manage Jira. Like, I want to help do things more in Cursor and not have to go to Jira directly. And in particular, I want it to help me look up issues, update those issues, and add comments to those issues. So let's hop on over here to Cursor. And as you can see here, we've got our MCP set up for Cursor. I should quickly show that if you're looking to do that, the way that you're going to do for Cursor is, again, you just go to that Connect tab, and you can see here that there are instructions for Cursor. And this one is really straightforward because you just copy this. And when you're back in Cursor here, you're going to go to your MCP file and just paste in exactly what you got from Zapier. Let's give this a refresh to wake it up. And here we go, that we've got our, you can see the tools that we've enabled here for this, including, what did I give it? Oh yeah, the ability to do all those Jira issues. But let's say now we're working in a file, right? We're using this file as context. This file is essentially like a Zapier integration for Anthropic, actually. So let's just say that I want to now update this, right? So let's say find the issue dealing with the Zapier integration. Let's keep it pretty broad. And Cursor here will again ask you to confirm like what you're doing, and so it's searching for a Zapier integration ticket. And you can see here in Jira, I created a couple test ones, and I've got this like create a Zapier integration one and a couple of other ones floating around in here. But now back in Cursor, what this is going to be doing is it's again calling out to Zapier for the to use the find issue action that it's going to be doing, and it'll reply with like the information for that Jira issue. While this is going, I'll show one thing over here in Zapier MCP, which is you can actually see the history of all of your actions and tools as well. So if you go into your server and go to history, you can see all of the executions that it's done for the enrich contact one steps that we were doing before. You can see that it looked up this is the information it's sent over to look up, and here's the output that came from it. So a great way to, if you're looking to debug or figure out what's going on there, history view is going to be your friend. All right, this is still going here. Let's try to refresh this. I may have waited too long to get it to go for that. So let's try. Let's try asking it one more time. And let's run the tool. And here we go. Looks like it's doing, there we go. That time it seemed to have gone much faster. There you go. I found the issue that's going to be late, which is currently in parking lot status. To describe creating a server. Let me find more detail. I don't need more detail about that. That's okay. I actually want to, can you help me update, or like, actually let's do, help me add a comment to that issue about the code I've written. That's a bit of a weirdly worded one, but let's go ahead and tell it that's what we want to do here. All right, so it's deciding to compose a comment that summarizes the work we've done. Let's see what it tells me. That integrates with Office Cloud API. Yeah, that is correct. All right, let's see what it does. Again, I could show you kind of what that file is over here. All right, it says it commented. let's go check. Let's go over here, create a Zapier integration. Oh, there is a comment just now. There you go. So I've updated this, or I've added a comment to this one. And of course I could go back here and ask it to like update the status of that ticket and do all the other Jira actions that I've enabled in that particular MCP. All right, well, I hope that gives you a good understanding of, using Zapier MCP for 2 different clients, for both Claude and for Cursor. I've found this to be just so much fun to play with, and it's been really valuable. I think for me, honestly, that calendar and looking up and searching our CRM style one has been actually quite useful, and I've been really impressed with how much I've wanted to keep coming back to using it. So I'm really looking forward to seeing what y'all get up to and answering some questions here. One other thing I want to touch on is, we talked about Zapier MCP within Claude and Cursor. That's using Zapier searches and actions within another tool that you're like interacting with live. The one other tool I want to highlight that we have is Zapier Agents. Now, the big difference with Zapier Agents is this is like running a full workflow with these searches and actions, and you can now incorporate Zapier's triggers as well. So with this, you can start to have these systems kind of like, I like to say, like running in your sleep, to say. So, for the meeting one that we talked about, imagine here you could have a trigger for, 10 minutes or 15 minutes before my Google Calendar events start. I want you to do some research on who I'm meeting, visit their websites, search them on Google, maybe, check if they're in HubSpot, and then send the details to you as a Slack DM. And so here's an example of kind of like what that looked like for another meeting of mine. But this way, if you use Zapier Agents, it's like that always on, always running type of tool, where with Zapier MCP today and bringing it somewhere else, you're getting those actions like to use live. That's kind of the difference there. But I do want to highlight that. I saw a number of questions on like agents and stuff like that. So that's one of the things to call out. And for those with Zapier, one of the things we just launched is you can actually now use Zapier agents within Zaps as well, which I find very helpful to add, particularly like research agents into a workflow is really cool. So highly recommend checking it out. Without further ado, I know there's a lot of questions here. And as a reminder for folks, within the left over here, you can actually go to the questions tab, feel free to start upvoting things or adding things. It's going to really help us go through some questions here. Matt, you want to help us out?
Yeah, let's do it. And by the way, awesome presentation and demos, Reid. Those were really fun to watch. Let's start at the top with the upvotes. Will Zapier MCP work with OpenAI? There's been a couple questions on that, so maybe we can knock out a couple with one answer.
Yes. Good news here. We do have a great relationship with OpenAI. They don't yet support MCPs. Typically, this request, like I see another one here for OpenAI Enterprise. I believe you mean ChatGPT Enterprise, just to distinguish from OpenAI on the API side of their business. But yes, hopefully coming soon. If you also like Sam Altman tweeted that they're going to have MCP support for this. My biggest recommendation to all of y'all who want to use this with OpenAI and ChatGPT, contact OpenAI's support team. Tell them you want to use Zapier MCP and you want to use MCPs. That's going to make it happen, quite honestly. So for anybody that put that question in, go on over to OpenAI, especially if you've got a paid ChatGPT Enterprise account, definitely log that over to their support team.
Good stuff. Here's a great one from Stanley. What is the benefit of doing this through Zapier MCP versus just going directly using a Google Calendar MCP server, for example?
Great question. Yeah, it depends what you mean there. I mean, I believe within Claude, there are like built-in integrations for that, if that's what you're referring to. They support like slightly different capabilities. I believe today they don't have create stuff, for instance, for that. But honestly, play around with both. Figure out what's going to do like the right solution for you. Right now, there are a lot of different MCP tools like continuing to be built. So there is going to be some experimentation. Only thing I'd caution is like keep in mind like trust. I mean, one's released first party by Anthropic, or probably ones you can trust for that. But just there's a lot of things being on like GitHub as well that you can install locally. So just test and be safe testing.
Good stuff. One follow-up question from me, Reid, on that. I've kind of interpreted the Zapier MCP as like a very quick access to tons of tools that are it's all going to be safe, reliable connections, et cetera. So you don't necessarily have to install or configure several different tools. Is that safe to say that Zapier is like a really quick way to get access to lots?
Yep. Yeah, absolutely. And the other thing I know, I think I see a question from Stanley here on that, and great question from Tal. Thank you, Tal. There on, Zapier would also give you like the shared auth capability. So if you're in an organization and wanting to like share authentications with each other, and like maybe you're working with an executive and stuff like that, you can do that really easily in Zapier and then use all those different auths in Zapier MCP for those actions as well. You get like the observability and everything as well.
Good stuff. I see one at the top here from Sarah. Perfect, tie back to what you were talking about earlier between this webinar, next webinar. But Reid, can you explain the differences between Zapier MCP and Zapier agents?
Yeah, happy to. One of the biggest differences is Zapier Agents is a tool that you can use that is like a full-on agent builder. And what that means is you're going to be able to have things running constantly. You can go to Zapier Agents and chat with it, similar to chatting with ChatGPT, and you'll see the same set of searches and actions in Zapier MCP are supported in Zapier Agents. But Zapier Agents also gives you some other things like triggers, right, which are really being able to run when other things happen. So if you wanted to do workflows like, hey, every time I get a new lead that comes into a various form tool or lead ads from Google or Facebook, run this sort of like workflow and personalize the email and send the email or create a draft email for me to review. That's the sort of thing that you can run like automatically with Zapier Agents, where Zapier MCP is about kind of bringing those tools from Zapier, those searches and those actions into the other apps that you use. So for instance, Cursor, and hopefully in the future, things like ChatGPT.
Love it. Let's see. Oh, another question about the difference between MCP and the GPT actions that we had before with Zapier. What is more powerful with MCP? Yeah,
great question. And appreciate you being with us for the journey across all of that. The Zapier MCP is, I'll be honest, more powerful. It is a easier to use system. If you've been familiar with like our AI actions stuff, you'll be really pleasantly surprised by just how much easier it is to set things up with Zapier MCP, how much easier, more configuration that you have for that. It also has a better kind of like guessing pipeline. So the ability for us to actually like determine what should go in various fields and what you meant to use. Zapier MCP is built on a much later tech stack for us that is a lot better. So highly recommend trying it. I understand if you're coming from the ChatGPT side, MCPs are not yet supported. So it's on the other side right now. Again, we really hope to work with OpenAI to get that into ChatGPT soon.
Awesome. I think we have time for one or two more questions. This one's from Daniel. Security and privacy. Is the model gathering information to train the models? Does this information become public? How are you keeping this secure?
Yeah, always a good question when you're talking about AI tools in general, Daniel. I would say the answer to this really depends on your account relationship with the tool that you're using Zapier MCP with. So for instance, if you're running, if you put Zapier MCP into Claude, it's going to depend on your like terms of service that you have in place with Anthropic in Claude. If you're using it in Cursor, it's going to depend on how things run in Cursor. You can always, for Zapier, like obviously this is a Zapier tool, so you're using Zapier, so our terms apply as well. But I always want to be clear that like when you put this tool into somewhere else, that other party's terms apply to their use of the data as well. But it does vary across the realm. So you do want to be aware of that and looking at, if you're going to give things into Claude, do you have the right terms in place to trust that and everything? Same with Cursor, same with everywhere else that you can use MCPs or actions today.
Good stuff, Reid. I see we're at the top. Is there a last question you want to answer before we hit the final slide?
I saw a lot of questions on like how to get started and stuff like that. I know, first of all, mcp.zapier.com. It's pretty straightforward to get started and check it out. I did also build a chatbot as well that can kind of help y'all if you have questions for that. It's a Zapier chatbot. I put a lot of work into like trying to make sure it answers questions accurately and has the information that I keep seeing people have questions about. So check that out if you do have any things that you're running into, and let us know your feedback. There's ways to submit your feedback to us. We're going through everything right now, and I just really look forward to seeing like what y'all do, where this goes, and yeah, more and more tools like ChatGPT that are going to support MCP soon, hopefully.
Love it. Thank you, Reid. Will you jump to the last slide? If everyone liked today's session, please join us next week. We've got a part 2. We've had more than 1 million innovators putting AI to work already in Zapier. You can now add AI agents directly into your workflows, no code necessary. You heard about a little bit of this, the Zapier agents thing Reid was talking about before. Come join us on May 13th to see it directly, to learn how. You'll see the pop-up at the bottom of your screen. Hopefully you RSVP, and we will see you there. Thank you, Reid. Awesome session, and Tal and the supporting team. Really appreciate it. And thank you to our audience for joining us. Bye-bye.
Thanks, everyone.